right, welcome to the SYA Day Town Hall. Great to see everybody joining us today. My name is Erin Erickson, and I am the Director of Advancement here at SYA. It is my pleasure to co-host this with the wonderful Tom Hassan, and we'll have a nice guest appearance by a current SYA France student. Her name is Zibby. You'll love hearing from her. Just to remind everybody, you're all very familiar with Zoom, but we are recording, so just keep that in mind. And let's see. Thank you, first of all, for joining us, and thank you to everybody who has participated in SYA Day so far. Everything from doing Wordle this morning to making a gift. We appreciate all the ways that people are getting involved. And I want to say a special thanks. You won't see her because she's working behind the scenes, but to our Director of Annual Giving and Stewardship, Samantha Quinn. She is the one that's running the show and getting out all the updates and has just done so much work on this. So special thanks to Sam for that. So as we kick this off, the program's really simple and a lot of good content here, but we will start with Tom Hassan giving a little update on SYA today. And then I will just do a little brief update on SYA Day, and then we'll hand it over to Zibby after watching a quick video on a day in the life. So it'll be some videos from our campus reporters abroad that show just like what their day looks like. Really cool. And then Zibby will have a Q&A with Tom, and then we will open up the Q&A for everybody, and then I'll close it. So that will be our program. So it is my pleasure to introduce SYA President Tom Hassan.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Erin. Thank you all for being here. Special thanks for Zibby. It was great. I met Zibby when I was over in France in December, so it's great to see her on the screen. And I also want to echo Erin's huge thanks to Sam Quinn, who's done a terrific job planning this day and executing it as we speak. So thanks, Sam. I thought I'd kind of take a few steps back and just remind people that what SYA has been through in the last several years. There actually was a year, and it was the 2020-21 school year where we didn't run at all, and everyone will know the reason why. And the previous spring, we had evacuated in this order: China, followed by Italy, and then followed by France and Spain, and got the kids out safely. They came back to the US, and all of them stayed with SYA. So we did online learning. And it was great for actually the kids back then to remain in touch with their faculty and their host families, and understand that they were those folks were safe over in Europe and China. And then we tried very hard to recruit and get the students over for the next school year, but just with the pandemic raging, health and safety was at the top of our mind, and we just couldn't get them over there. Fast forward, for the last 2 years, we've had robust numbers of kids. I think a lot of them were ready to get out from behind a Zoom screen and live the life that so many of you on this webinar did, and experience it almost just like you did. Last year, we had some more COVID restrictions than we do right now. And SYA followed in each of the particular countries' protocols about distancing and masking. And so this year, and Zibby can talk to it, but this year it feels much more normal than last year in terms of that particular piece. And had, as it said, really strong interest, not only in our annual program, but we run summer programs in our sites. This summer we'll have programs in France, Spain, and Italy, summer programs, which are 5 weeks. And those, again, are oversubscribed, which is really nice for us to see. So, and as many of you know from memos I've sent out, our China program right now is on hold for a while until we kind of figure out how and if we can get back to Asia. So with all that said, just want to report to you what I've seen firsthand when I was over in France and Spain in December. Over in Spain, we have a new RD, and that's Rocio Alejo Rodriguez. And she is just hit the ground running and really, both to faculty and student acclaim, just really been right there for the kids and the faculty. So it's been great to see. And in all of our countries, there's a day a week now where we get the kids out of their classroom seats and get them into the local and regional community to do and practice their language and do specific tasks. There's a lot going on, and Rocio has embraced that kind of experiential learning, something that she did at St. Paul's with her students. And so that's been great to see. And then when I was over in France, and this actually was the pre-protest time, Zibby can talk probably about that. I know that the RD there, Mina Kadir, has got the safety of kids in mind. There have been some weekends where she's had kids come in early for curfew just because of the protests that are going on. But in essence, Rennes has been fairly protected from that. What we mainly see are things happening in Paris. But so that's been an interesting real life learning situation for students in France about what protests can be and why, and also the effect that it has on transportation. I had a few teachers over from America who go and visit from our member schools, who go visit our sites, and several of them were just over during their spring break, and a number of their trains were canceled, so they had to figure out ways to get from point A to point B. But they, like SYAers, they were intrepid and resourceful and did that. In France right now, they're working on their capstone projects, which is a relatively new innovation for SYA, where kids have to do a culminating project at the end of the year, but it can't be a term paper. It has to be something very hands-on. And I'm going to prod Zibby to tell me about her project, because I didn't know what she was going to do. So I'll be interested in hearing that. And finally, last spring, I, along with the trustees, met in Viterbo because it was the 20th anniversary of our time in Italy. My moment that I remember so fondly is on the Friday night, we had a gathering of host families over the years with local town officials. And it was probably the biggest party that the town had seen in decades. Very warm, and what it reminded me of how deep the roots are of SYA in our communities, and the way we get host families really is through wonderful word of mouth and excitement. And it was just great to be at that gathering. It was just another great SYA moment. And speaking of that, we'll have another one coming up in a few years to celebrate the 60th anniversary of SYA. As many remember, Spain was our first site. So we will do something over in Zaragoza to celebrate our 60th anniversary. So where those details are starting to come together. So Erin and her team will keep you posted about that over time. And finally, I would say this, another relatively new innovation for us is over time at SYA, we've had moments where students have come over for just a semester versus the whole year. We decided to make that a little bit more formal. And so we have a few slots that we offer every year for both a fall or spring. And that's lent some really strong students for us who couldn't get over otherwise, either because of sports or finances or whatever. So that's been a 2-year success story, I would say. And I can ask Zibby about that too. So that's a quick overview, and I'd be glad to answer more questions. So if you have some, please put it in the chat, and Erin will monitor those and give me the questions later on. But I'm going to turn this back to Erin now so she can talk about more about SYA Day today.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Yes, and please do put some questions in there. I know Tom covered quite a bit there, but we'd be happy to share more if you have things that you're particularly curious about. So thanks, Tom. So SYA Day, this is our 5th one. And some of you have been with us since the very first one. I know that Jen is listening in and you were here for that. Same with Jamie Broderick, one of our trustees at the time. And then Sam Schultz might have been working in the office at that point, I think. I saw that he was on here too. And then we have some of the newer folks who are joining us, and always glad to see new names and new faces, including some current parents. I saw Leslie's name in there, as well as Shenley's, who are both current parents. We've heard wonderful things about you and your kids. So great to see all of you joining us today. It started as a way to build enthusiasm about philanthropically and supporting SYA, so making gifts and raising money. It was before the pandemic started. And then once that happened, our second year, we were kind of like, do we do this Giving Day thing? Is it tone deaf? Is it, what are people going to be feeling? And I think if I remember right, that it might have been the year that we raised the most money. We decided to just go ahead with it. We decided to make it a day about the SYA community and not so much focused on making a gift, even though that is a very important piece of SYA Day. So it was more about building affinity and reigniting just that wonderful passion for SYA. So this town hall is just one of many ways to interact with SYA today. There are all sorts of other things that you can do. I know that Instagram's not for everybody, but if you're on Instagram, then definitely check out our stories. There's lots of good pictures and you can just click on the links. Fun games and content. Like I said, there was a little Wordle this morning. I think This or That is a game that's coming up. It's super easy. Just click the thing that you like better. And if you don't do social media, then you can see all of that also on the update page. And you can just click on Give on the SYA website to get to the update page. So in addition to all the fun things, as I mentioned, there is that making a gift part. That's a meaningful way to show your support and help strengthen the SYA experience for today's students. Our goal is 223 donors today, and that represents the number of students in the class of 2023, so 223 for 2023. If we reach our goal, each donor will have supported one current student's SYA experience. And all gifts go to the SYA fund, which is used for the greatest need, which is everything from museum and bus tickets to financial aid. So it's the whole range wherever we need the money most. And I mentioned Jamie Broderick earlier, and there's something he said during one of our meetings way back about your gift as an investment, thinking of it as an investment. It's not just money to a school, but it's an investment in the life and future of an adventurous high schooler. So when you're considering your gift, think about it as an investment in someone's future. So to help inspire others to make a gift, a generous group of current parents from each of our European campuses have all come together to offer a challenge of $10,000 if we reach our goal today. So certainly if you haven't made your gift, definitely encourage you to do so. And also don't forget to get your swag at the pop-up shop. So there's baseball and bucket hats, and they're only available for a limited time. It's the whole pop-up idea of we'll have a product, we'll sell it for a little bit, and then we take it down and we focus on the next one. So now's your chance for the hat, the baseball hat and the bucket hat. And with that, I'm really excited to share this year's theme, which is a day in the life. So a really popular question from our applicants is what a typical day looks like at SYA. So our wonderful marketing team enlisted current students to help describe and get some footage of what that looks like. And so we have that video to share with you. And following the video, as I mentioned earlier, you will hear from Zibby in France, and you have an opportunity to ask some questions about today's experience. So with that, I'll ask Sam to start the day in the life video.
host dad drops myself and my host sisters off in the center of town for school, and if I have enough time before my first period class, I'll go to Bar 103, which is my favorite cafe in town, for my morning cappuccino and cornetto, which is basically just an Italian croissant, but obviously a lot better. Me walking to school down Via Cavour, which is where our school is, and it has tons of cute little bars and cafes and shops. This morning I started with 2 free periods, so I sat in the salone to do some math work and to study for an Italian test that I have today. Then I went to my elective, Local Global Perspectives, where we had a class discussion led by a classmate on merit-based society. These are some chocolate chip cookies made by the agroecology class. They were so delicious. Then it was time for lunch, so we went to the Mensa. Then I had a pretty chill afternoon, but I did have math class, so here's me doing some more work in the salone. I do a lot of extracurriculars here at SYA, but today I had fashion design, where I went to work on my skirt that we've been making since the beginning of the year. Fashion design is honestly one of my favorites. It's so much fun, and the woman who runs it is super sweet. Then I went to go meet my host family at Akira, a restaurant in town, and we got this really cool sushi boat.
So this is Sconso. This is Kendall. Sconso break. We're going to El Rincon. Get a snack. Yep. All right. So we're in Spanish language class. We are asking people questions in Spanish, and this is Maddie and Mitchell. Yeah.
¿Qué fiestas? El inicio.
Antes de las fiestas.
Okay.
Un desfile. De las fiestas.
El mal sabor. Mal.
Hey guys, so we're walking to lunch right now.
Provided.
Hey guys, so we're walking to cooking class now. Here's everyone. So I just got back from cooking and now it's time to do some of my homework.
¿Es vídeo o foto?
Great. I think now it's time to hand it over to Tom and Zibby. And just a quick note, I think the chat is actually disabled. So if you have a question, then please put it in the Q&A, not the chat. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. And thanks, Sam, for pulling that video together. There was a common theme I saw, which is a lot of food, a lot of good food, which is great to see. So Zibby Laird is with us, and Zibby is spending her junior year at SYA, and she has come from and will go back to Thatcher School in California, and she's originally from Colorado. So Zibby, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got to SYA? Why don't you kind of give us a little background of why you made the decision?
Okay, so last year, SYA did a presentation at my school led by Lawrence Weber, who I'm pretty sure is on this call. And I just remember being like, oh, wait, that's possible. And so I was only in French 1 last year. So technically I was outside of the requirements, but I went up to Lawrence and asked if he thought it was possible. And I've made it work. I did a summer program to learn more French, and here I am. I think the other part of it was I always wanted to study abroad because my dad studied abroad in Spain, and I didn't actually understand that it was the same program until last year. I was like, I want to apply to SYA, and he was like, oh, I did that. And I was like, Nice. Yeah, so that's why I'm here.
Great. And Zibby, when you get back to Thatcher and people ask about your year, is there a moment that you're gonna describe for them, like the perfect SYA moment for you this year? Is there something that kind of captures your year? I know it's a tough question, but I'll throw it out there.
I think there's so many moments, but I think like for me, the most influential part of this experience has been my host family, because they really are just incredible people. So for my birthday this year, I turned 17 on the 17th, and so they really wanted to make it a big deal. So I play this song all the time in the car, because I have to get driven to my metro stop, and it's called Cleopatra by the Lumineers. And my host mom and my host brother are very musical people, so they rewrote a cover in French about me for my birthday and then sang it to me on my birthday. And then they surprised me by like inviting all my friends over, and we all had like a really French dinner which lasted like 4 hours, and it was just the fact that they took time out of their lives to like rewrite a cover of a song for me was just adorable.
That's great. And tell me about, so yeah, what about your family? What do your parents, the host family parents, do, and how many siblings do you have?
I have 2 host siblings, 1 host brother and 1 host sister. My host sister is 19 and goes to college in Tours, which is like not in Rennes. But she comes home every other weekend. And then I have my host brother who's 18 and he lives right next door. And then like he can probably hear me on this Zoom. He thinks it's funny. And then I have my host mom, my host dad. Yeah, they're really amazing. My host mom, she doesn't work anymore because she has some type of arthritis that doesn't allow her to do any like labor intensive things, but she used to be a teacher, and you can really see that in her like conversation. Like I'll say something in French and she'll correct my grammar, and I can just, it's perfect. It's amazing. It's exactly what I need. Yeah. And my host brother, I think like I'm really glad I chose to have someone my age, because it's really important to have that like connection with a young person here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I know that Madame Kadir has done a lot in connecting the school with other French students. So for instance, every day you guys go, or during the school week, you go over to the local high school and have lunch there. And then there's been a group that you went to around Thanksgiving, and that group came up to be with you. So why don't you describe a little bit about meeting kind of your own kids your own age outside the host family situation?
I think I'll answer the first thing, which is Jean Massé, where we eat lunch. And so that's every day. That's our most frequent interaction, because like every day for lunch, we go there, we eat in the same lunchroom. And then the students from Dinard, I was not there for the first time when they went to Dinard because I had just gotten my wisdom teeth out. But I was here this last week, and they came to us and we kind of ran workshops in the morning, which was kind of not workshops, they were like games where they were half English, half French, and we were just talking to them. My group, we were team job dating, which is very hard to explain because it wasn't really the goal. Basically, it was just one-on-one conversations, which I actually kind of enjoyed because I just really got to like talk to people for like 2 hours, and it was one-on-one. And then I think the third area for me is extracurriculars. I do ceramics at a local little ceramics place, and I actually had it today, like an hour ago. And yeah, it's really nice. Like it's a very low-key way to meet people because you're all doing a similar activity. And I know that goes to the same for people who are on sports teams here. Like my friend Rebecca does soccer, and she's good friends with a bunch of kids on her soccer team. And I don't know, like I think that extracurricular aspect is really important for meeting French kids our age.
Mm. And are there other SYA kids doing ceramics with you, or are you the only SYA student doing that?
There are others. There's my friend Hope and my friend Catherine. Catherine joined us in February, because she was doing tennis, but then she broke her wrist. So we actually had surgery a day apart.
And the wisdom teeth stuff worked fine, and you bounced back from that.
It was immersive. I think I came out better for it.
There you go. I knew that about you. Hey, Zibby, I mentioned a few things that, in my comments. One of them is about the capstone project. And you guys were just starting to talk about when I was there. So I don't know what you decided to do. And why don't you talk about what you decided to do and why, and how far along are you on that project?
I actually love my capstone project, so I'm really happy to talk about it. So I decided to do my capstone on the traditional dance in the Brittany area. And so my essential question is kind of like how the dance impacts like the Breton identity and how I can connect with the Brittany culture. So I've been going to dance classes for 2 hours every Thursday night, and I think I'm the youngest person there by at least 30 years. And it's really fantastic because like they were so confused when I first showed up. They were like, what is this 17-year-old American doing? It's like in this really obscure part of Rennes. And like, I have to get driven 20 minutes to get there. Of course, my host mom is happy to drive me, but yeah, they were really confused about what I was doing there. And I kind of explained to them, like, you just want to discover your culture. And of course, people love to talk about their culture. If you're doing a dance class at Thursday night at age like 60, 70, 80, you want to talk about how that impacted your life. And a lot of them have like been doing it since they were like little kids, and it's just amazing. And then the other thing I did was I went to a Fest Nose, which is like a night festival for the Breton dance, and it was just really cool. Like it was just so many people. Not a lot of them knew how to dance. Some of them did, and it was just very like community like engagement. Like people would just pull others in to dance and get them involved, and so that was really cool. And I'm feeling pretty good about where I am. I've done good research.
Yeah. And Zibby, have you thought about how you're going to present it to your classmates? Because you guys, each one presents their project, and it's not a written term paper or anything like that. So will you dance for your classmates and show them?
So actually my capstone presentation is next Thursday. And so I have been thinking about that. I think I have a few ideas. I'm toying with the idea of teaching my teachers how to dance, because I think that would be very funny and very fun. And then of course I'll talk about like the research aspect and the cultural aspect, because I really do feel like I've learned a lot getting to talk to all these people who grew up living in this like Celtic culture. Also, this Friday, Spirit Week at SYA France, is Breton Day, and I will be leading with my friend Sophia, leading a dance class.
Terrific. Well, now I realize this is being recorded, so I can't take anonymity, but I like your idea of having your teachers teach them how to dance. That would be good. I think your classmates would like. And the other thing I was mentioning is that, every week you guys get out through your experiential French class and do things. Do you have a favorite one that you've done so far out of every week you're out there doing something different? So is there one that really kind of sticks with you?
I think like the field work, that we call it field work here. I'm sure it's the same at every campus, but I don't know. Anyway, my favorite field work, I think there's so many. I think probably like the one that sticks out in my mind the most was the very first one, where they collected all of our phones in a big plastic bag. We had to turn them in. And then we went out in groups, like 4 or 5 groups, and they just, I think I was with Monsieur Montiville, and he just dropped us in the middle of the city, and he said, find these places, see ya, and gave us a map. We had to find our way back to the school. And so we had to pair up, and I was with my friend Hannah, which was a real bonding experience. Like we got so lost. I remember we're standing in what now is like the most obvious part of the city to me, which is right in front of the opera, like the most obvious part of the city. And we were like, we have no idea where we are. Like, and this guy on a scooter comes up to us, and we were like, who is this guy? And then I see the SYA symbol on his hat, and I was like, okay, fine. And it was Chris. And Chris gave us a little point in the right direction. So we were never really in any danger. So, but it was a very, I don't know, team bonding experience. And I know the semester 2 students had to do something similar when they got here.
And from your perspective, I mentioned that we're now a little bit more intentional in taking a few kids for the fall and then another group for the spring. And from your perspective, that they've kind of blended, if people blended together and friendship and classes and all of that.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I think the change for me really happened over our February trip to Paris because, like, I think it's in the classroom, people get very settled, like you sit in your seat, you have your class dynamic, and like maybe you don't have a class with a semester 2 student. So they were already mixing, like obviously little by little in classes, like sitting next to new people, but I think having the whole class out in a new environment in Paris was really like important for that. Like we were all on ground zero, so put them equal. But I think they've done a really good job of integrating into the class. Like there isn't like a group of semester 2 students that just like, they're all mixed in.
Yeah. And you got, if I remember right, Madame Kadir said you guys have one more big trip and half the school will go to Marseille and the other Montpellier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And which one will you be going to?
I will be going to Marseille. I went to Montpellier last time and it's in a week and a half actually.
Great.
So
well, enjoy. Hey, any words of wisdom? I know we're always, every year our SYA admissions people, Larry Weber included, are out there, and every year we're getting a totally new group of students. Do you have any words for people on the Zoom here of how to help us find other students? What would work for you? What might you suggest them to do?
Like kind of how to recruit me?
Yeah. How to recruit the next Zibby for us?
I think the presentation's definitely, like, I know it's classic, but classic works for a reason. And then I also think like social media is another obvious one because kids are very often on social media. You kind of see it everywhere. And then I think for me, one of the most important things that made me like finalize my decision to come was seeing students online, like on a Zoom webinar, because that was really cool. Like I remember seeing like kids my age and being like, oh, like this is like they're fine. And they said the same thing. They were like, at first it was really scary. I like freaked out, and then I got into it and it was okay. And I think you hear that from adults, but it just doesn't feel the same. Like people are like, oh, it'll be fine, it'll work out, but you don't really believe it. Like, and it's, yeah, I think promoting like students, but I think SYA does that with like the campus reporters and the SYA Instagram and the Instagram to go.
Yeah, when as I think about COVID, and we all went through a lot of stuff that wasn't easy, but a COVID keeper for me is this whole way that we now communicate to prospective students, which is throughout the process. You got to meet Madame Kadir over Zoom, and you got to hear from current students. And I think it just makes the world a difference. And, to answer that question from my perspective of what can people do to find us, I think planting the seed kind of on the early side, if, people know younger kids talk about their SYA experience, it may not sprout, but it gets people thinking about it, because sometimes it's not an instantaneous decision. It may take a year or two to do that. And then, like you said, if adults know people in schools, they can go and talk to them and say, hey, support SYA. And then I think you're right, the recent students or recent alums are really helpful to us because they've just lived the experience, and that's really helpful for you guys to hear. So anyway, thank you. Hey, any as we're finishing this part up, is there any just any additional thought I haven't captured for you, asked in the question, or anything else you want to say about your year in Rennes?
Anything else I want to say about my year in Rennes? How to sum
Which
it up?
will soon come to an end. I mean, it's a month and a half or so. Yeah.
It's crazy. Like I've started having my first lasts. Because today, I mean, it's not like that last, but like today I had my ceramics class, and we've kind of decided that like after next week, it'll be our last class because we go on the vacation for 2 weeks and then we only have 3 weeks. And one of those weeks is the last week where we'll have a weird schedule. And then those other 2 weeks were kind of like in ceramics, you can't really make anything in 2 weeks and get it finished. Like it's just not possible with the way that she runs her shop. So we had our last like see you next week, which is like a very small little baby last, but it's kind of started the, I don't know, the ball rolling. I don't know. I think it's so hard to sum up the year in like a short little thing. I would just say that like there's so many things that happen. Like every time I think I've seen the biggest thing that will happen, I'm wrong. Like every day you learn something new. Like today we learned a new word in ceramics, which sounds silly, but like we were talking to this girl, Celestine, who is like, she thinks she can speak English better than we can speak French, which is really funny because she can't. Not in a mean way. I promise, not in a mean way. It's just like, it would be much easier if she would just say it in French for us all to understand her. But yeah, we all learned a new word, which is how to say like, I don't know how to say it in English. It's the thing that like carves like your ceramics piece. I don't know. I think it's just like, it keeps you on your toes. Every day's a new day.
Yeah. Well, it's so great to see you again, and clearly in meeting you there and hearing you today, SYA has had a profound impact, and I know I speak for the alums on this Zoom that it keeps coming back at you in great ways, including, I'm sure you will be in touch with your host family over time, and they sound really special. That was very, very kind of them of the cover song. That was really a great birthday present. Means a lot. That's great. Terrific. Well, Erin, why don't I turn it back to you? And if there are questions and you want to throw to Libby or Zibby or me, that would be great.
Sure. I did note that the chat's enabled, so if you feel compelled to put questions there, you're welcome to, or just, say who you are, where you're tuning in from. We also just love to hear from folks. So, and then there's also the Q&A feature, so definitely feel free to use that. So Zibby, what has surprised you most during your year?
What surprised me most? I think how at home I feel. Like I go to boarding schools, so, and I've also moved a few times in my life, all within Colorado, but I've never really had a chance to like get to know a city the way I know Ren. And like living here for the past what has it been, like 8 months? It's just like this unique time in your life where you're like almost an adult, so you're really respected as part of like society, and you get to know a place in a different way. And I think like walking down the streets of Ren is just like perfect. I don't know how to explain it better than that, but it is really like home, and I can't really imagine leaving.
You can come back at some point. We'd love to see you.
I have been invited by my host family for like the next 10 years, so
take them up on it.
That's a good sign.
I was like, okay. We're a while away from that, but
great. We just got a question from Martha, who said, Zibby, do you plan to continue taking French when you return to school next fall?
I think so, yeah. I think I want to take, my school offers a few advanced French classes that I want to take. I definitely don't want to stop because I want to keep my French up, and I know that you lose it really quick as soon as you stop speaking it. And then when I go to college, I think I want a minor in French.
It's a great opportunity to make a plug. We're almost done with them this year, but during the school year, we have back to virtual school. So that's an opportunity for alums and parents, anybody who would like to join in, to have a little session with current faculty members. They teach a topic, and thanks to those who helped us out this year with that, but it's all in conversational local language. So it's a good opportunity to brush up on your skills, see some former, familiar faculty faces, and sometimes classmates, whoever might be there, but just a little quick plug for that. Zibby, you mentioned that Ren is your city now. Tell us your favorite restaurant and meal.
Favorite? Oh, well, I can't pick a favorite, but I will tell you my most recent one, if that works. So today I went to lunch with my friends because we had our Wednesdays half days where it's off so that you can go to extracurriculars. So we went out to lunch at this Asian street food place, and I had pad thai, which was just like the most divine pad thai I've had in months. But there's so much good food, like every corner you turn. Like I'd never been to this pad thai place before, and I was just amazed. I was like, how have I never been here? I've been here for 8 months, but it's because I've been to so many other good places.
I love that. I also love how in the day in the life video, the Italy meal was like a sushi bowl, like a sushi plate. So it's not always what you expect. There's great, international cuisine. So love to hear that. We do have a nice little comment from Joe who said his son Darius is also in Ren and loving it. So I'm not sure if Darius is a friend or classmate, but also
Darius is actually a classmate at Thatcher as well.
Ah,
yeah, we've known each other since freshman year.
Super fun. So Zibby, when you were getting ready to go to Ren, what was your biggest concern? And now looking back at your former self, what would you say to that younger Zibby?
I think my biggest concern was that I would fail all my classes because they were in French. And then I would just be totally lost and not understand what's going on. And I think what I would say is, like, it'll be okay. Like, the first month is for sure difficult, but it's difficult for everyone. Like, and they treat it like it's difficult. Like, the teachers give you like that warm-up time to like figure out immersion and like the language and kind of a little bit of fluency. And I was shocked at how quickly my level improved. Like, I'm not going to say I'm fluent in French, but I think like my understanding is much higher than I thought it would be. So like that was just, it was a huge concern for me, but it turned out just fine.
I love that. Do you have, I often hear from alums examples of language / translation mistakes that they have made, like saying, what is it, embarazada or embarazada in Spanish means pregnant, not embarrassed. So is there any kind of fun story like that you have?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. It's probably fine. Yeah, so there's a vegetarian student who said that they don't like meat because it has a lot of preservatives, and preservative in French is condom. So
well, that would be a reason not to eat that. Yep.
Straight to the host family, and they were like, no, that's not what that means.
That is not the right word. Not even close.
All right. And Zibby, when did you start dreaming in French, or have you had that moment?
Oh yeah, I've had some weird French dreams. Like it went from like normal French dreams to like maybe it's with the like protests recently, but like I've seen a different side of the French. Like they know how to stick to their thoughts and feels.
Yeah. And have you guys had discussions around your host family dinner table about the protests? And
oh yeah, my host family they're not openly criticizing the protests, but I think a lot of people feel that it's just gone on too long, and like the bill is passed. Like yeah, there's nothing you can do at this point, but a lot of people do not feel that way.
Yeah, interesting.
Like, say there's going to be another huge protest. The lunch canteen will be closed. Yeah.
But you felt pretty safe in Rennes. I mean, I know Madame Kadir had, for the first weekend or two, had kind of
Yeah.
cut the curfew a bit, but yeah.
I think I feel really safe. Like you can definitely see people, like there are big protests, but like as long as you just don't go into the center of it, you're gonna be fine. Like they I think part of it is like I feel very safe because there's like they're not armed. Like they're working with what they've got, but like they're angry, but they're not angry at like kids. Like they're angry at the government. So
Yeah. Well,
Good way of putting it. So I'm keeping an eye on the time, and we have one other question for you, and then we'll jump to a couple of questions for Tom. So with just a little under 2 months to go, what is the top thing that you want to do before you leave Ren?
I think, I don't know if this is like one thing, but it's a question that's been weighing on me is like, how do I make the most of my last weeks? And I find myself just wanting to like spend time with like my host family and my friends, like, but especially my host family. Like this weekend, I'm going away for the Easter weekend for 3 days with my host mom to Quiberon, which is on the coast, and like I just want to soak up the time because like I know we'll keep in touch, but it's just not the same. Like it just is what it is. But yeah.
I love that. I think it speaks volumes to your closeness with your host family, that's the thing. The thing you've been doing all year long is the thing you want to keep doing. And I think that's really sweet. So thank you, Zibby, for sharing your thoughts and your experience with us. Very much love to hear from current student, and you're obviously a fabulous one to have been recommended and speak with us. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
see you guys, Libby.
And then for other Q&A, so the one other question that came in the Q&A that I wanted to address was just how is enrollment looking for 2024? That was a question for Tom.
Yeah, actually really, really good. As I said, the strongest year, I've been president now for 7 years, and our strongest years have been the last two, and coming out of COVID. And next year we have full enrollment already in all three programs in France and Spain and Italy. And so that's a great place to be in early April, and very enthusiastic kids coming. Our admissions team this year, I think, got out to every single school, all our member schools and other schools that they visit. Last year, there was a lot of virtual stuff, but this year they were actually in person. So I think that's really helped to spread the word. So enrollments are really strong.
And related to that question, actually, there was another one that came in beforehand, which was, are applications for admission to SYA up or down overall compared to 5 or 10 years ago? Is there a general trend across sites, or are particular countries attracting more students and other countries less?
Yeah, I would say that if over 10 years ago, it kind of started going down a little bit, and now we bounced back up. So it's kind of bounced up again. So that's great. I would say that Spain is usually most kids apply there because in the American school system, Spanish is the language for kids to take. So that's a natural kind of thing. And what Zibby mentioned, that both in France and Spain, you need 2 years of high school language before you get there. Italy, you do not need to have studied classics or Italian. And so I would say that although France has had almost the same number of kids this year and next year, but Spain's usually the strongest interest for us.
And then another question we had was cheating and plagiarism is an issue that we deal with here in the US school system, and just wondering what that looks like at our schools abroad and how that's dealt with.
Yeah, I have two responses to that. One is I've been describing kind of an evolution of our curriculum, which kind of has moved to much more hands-on, experiential. What Zibby was describing in terms of her capstone project is not a term paper where oftentimes that kind of cheating plagiarism comes into play. So it doesn't often come up for us just because these are kind of real life assignments, and the kids are just have to kind of work their way through them. So they're not copying things out of books and things like that. I imagine there's, cheating is all over the place. There's a lot of pressure on this generation of kids. I've been in education now for 4 decades. I've never seen as much pressure on kids with the college process and all that. And so I think these kids just feel in the vice about that stuff and sometimes resort to it. Although I have to say, we have not thrown out kids for that. So I think there's one time a kid had kind of just misused a source, but so it's been pretty good. And the other thing I'd say too is that given the size, now it's just giving an idea, there's like 65 kids in Spain. Teachers and kids know each other well. And I think in those situations, there's an honesty and a checks and balances in a really good way in terms of education. And so we, particularly the RDs, have got eyes on kids, and if kids are struggling a bit, they move right in to talk to them or their parents. And to that thing, I also want to say that we work with parents. I see it as a kind of a 3-leg stool. We've got the parents, we've got the sending schools, and we've got the RD and faculty there, and we're all there in support of the student. So I'm in touch with sometimes the sending school to say, hey, we're seeing this about a student. Did you see it? What can we do? Or we might bring in the parents. So we have this open line of communication, and I'm in constant contact with the RD. So I think all of that is a long way of saying, with close contact and close eyes on kids, I think we don't have as many of the issues as sometimes when kids can be in larger anonymous situations happen.
Great, thank you for that. I put out a last call for questions. I'll just do that one more time. Give a quick look here. Make sure.
And as you're doing that, Aaron, I'll just say too, I think just listening to Zibby, I'm reminded of why I do the work I do. I mean, I just think that you get a curious mind like hers, you open up that mind and her heart to the greater world, and that empathy. I know we talked a lot about the mission of SYA being on the cultural language immersion side. I would argue vigorously that not only that, but the empathetic maturation side of things, SYA has a corner on that. I mean, I think it's just really, and the Zibbies of the world will be great ambassadors for SYA and America, and have their eyes open to larger things in life.
Zibby for president, am I right?
Yeah.
Sounds like a great idea. I mean, maybe give her a couple years. I think you have to be 35. So, in some time.
She can follow in the footsteps of another, we've had, someone from SYA France be the ambassador, U.S. ambassador of France. And so, we could, at least that,
Plenty of roles. We're ready for you, Zibby. All right. So with that, I will do the closing here and for you all to go about the rest of your day. Just want to make a last call for SYA Day participation, and specifically a gift to the SYA Fund. We just sent out another reminder email with some challenges and matches. So just a quick summary of those. Again, 10,000 if we reach 223 donors. All gifts are currently being matched dollar for dollar by the same group of generous current parents that gave us that $10,000 challenge. Right now, for every gift that's made, an additional $5 is given. So if you give $100, it's $105. If you give $5, it's $10. And yeah, so lots of good incentives to get out there and make your gift. And everybody that makes a gift is entered into, I don't want to say raffle, but a drawing to win some swag. So, and there are other opportunities to win that swag. So if you look on the page, you'll see, I think there's like share some photos and stories. And if you want to complete one of the fieldwork assignments that we put up there, post some pictures. We'd love to see all that great content. So definitely check that out. And thanks for doing that. And thank you again for attending. If you think of anything after we get off this call that you meant to ask or were thinking about, we'd love to hear from you. And otherwise, we will look forward to seeing everyone out on the road. We'll be in Washington, D.C. next week. And then we will be in London at the end of May. So we hope to see folks there, and otherwise, maybe at another town hall. So thanks all for attending, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.